I guess I woke up and chose pain. This is where I've been getting my Windows keys for the last couple of years, right here on Whokeys.com. The difference is this is an OEM key, so it's tied to the hardware. Don't go out and buy a retail copy of Windows because it's going to cost you 10 to 12 times as much as this. Now, they're having a back to school special, so these prices are even lower than what you see on the screen for Windows 10 Pro. We also have Home, Windows 11. We have Office 2021, 2019, and 2016 here. I always recommend grabbing a copy of Windows 10 Pro. So you get 20% off of the back to school special, but if you use my coupon code TS25, you'll get 25% off. Putting in coupon code TS25, click apply, and then watch these prices come down. Wonderful. Once you're finished, all you have to do is click on your user account up here, go to your user center, click on my purchase orders, just view keys and codes, and you can just copy and paste your key, hit start, type activate, click on activation settings, paste it in there, click on next, and you will be activated. So thanks to them for sponsoring, and now to our regularly scheduled program. Linus, I'm going to talk to you, and I think everyone else can kind of watch because I've seen Steve's takedown. I think Steve finally found a chance to stab the king, and take over or whatever. I don't really see LTT and, Gamers Nexus in the same exact product or in the same exact category. I think LTT is a bit more entertainment and they're a bit more information. Of course, there's a lot of crossover because it's talking about the same thing, but there's some differences. I wasn't going to talk about all this stuff because I didn't really need to deal with any drama. I know that a lot of the people in the comments are just waiting for that moment where they can jump back into their own little false realities and push that on everybody else, where they're talking about like, this is what we know to be true and we hate you and we want to remind you about like your company falling apart 5 or 6 years ago or whatever. The only thing I'll really say about that is there's a big difference here. The issues I see with LTT are more employee-based, whereas that was a bunch of drama that happened at the top of the company. People were struggling for power. We were disagreeing about the direction of the company, but I wasn't willing to continue to do a billion product videos. I didn't want to do that. So that's kind of where I put my foot down, and that's all kind of ancient history now. But the employees that were involved, you could contact any of them. They got what they wanted. If they needed a day off, I always had a hard time dealing with the fact that I had employees because there's a strange relationship between boss and employer, and I hate that relationship because the boss, and this is something I'm going to be saying to you in just a second, Linus, the boss has different interests that a lot of times they're really cool people and you want to be friends with them, but there's this weird thing in the middle. So I'm going to show you this thing that's been floating because this is what I want to talk about when it comes to all this nonsense.
What protections do you have in place for your staff? Would you support a unionization of stash/camera crew under YouTube creators? I've made it very clear in the past that I feel that if our staff felt like they needed a union, I would consider that, and Yvonne too, we would both consider it personal failures.
All right, so here's the thing, and I don't think that you've had time to think about this, not as much time as I have, and I know that society judges success based upon money rather than anything else, but I'm a lot happier now than I was back then. So, like, way happier, even though I don't have as much money, so I'm not sure if that counts for anything or not in modern society. The thing here is that you have a different set of interests than your employees, and that's something I don't think a lot of people stop and think about. What is best for you, a lot of times you'll think that it's best for your employees because, you feel like you're there all the time, you are friends with them, but there's a weird relationship there where you are their friend, but you also have power over them and you also make all the decisions. You have the freedom to do as you choose, but they do not, because they work for you and they'll have to answer to you, and they can't do some things if they're fearful that they can't take time off. There's an awkward scenario when it's like all up to one person. And a lot of the people who run around screaming freedom all day are the people who will justify this and say like, no, the boss needs to be, he's the smart one, they need to be able to do whatever they want. And they'll be very anti-union, which is weird because freedom is what they scream, but a union gives democracy a voice, gives the people a voice. The only way I think that corporations can be decent in this current world is one or two different ways that they can be run to be good for everyone. And that is, number one, if it's a co-op. And that's kind of difficult for a small business to be, to get started and just be a co-op and give everyone shares and stuff. But I think that's a very valuable thing that, different companies do out there. Very, very good way to allow all the employees to reap more of the rewards from all the work that they put in, as opposed to all of their work and all the rewards from their work and all the, I guess, fruits of their labor going to the top. That's just one way. The other way, and I don't think it's as good, but I think that it's completely necessary in situations where that doesn't or can't exist, and that is for the employees to have a union. And this is when it's like big. When you're like a small company, like a few people, it's kind of difficult to do this, and you are mostly just scrappy friends getting together and working, which I think that's how you started. But once you get to a certain level, the employees and your interests go in two different directions. And that's where you have to understand that this is not an emotional thing for you. It's not about you failing if they need this. It's that your interests and their interests and what's best for you and what's best for the company are not always what's best for them as individuals. You know, if they need personal days for something, if they need to do certain tasks a certain way, or if they need certain rights in the workplace, well, that's legitimate. You know, like if enough of them get together and vote on it, then there you go. So I think you need to remove emotions from this and realize that it's not a failing on your part at all. You grew this company. I don't know what's in your head. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I sense sort of almost like I can be like this myself. I'm very much a mother hen with my friends. Like when they're out, I'm like, want to make sure everybody's cool and having fun and make sure that like no one's getting, taken advantage of or anything like that. So I kind of do that. I sense a little bit of that, maybe like, you're like the dad of the office type of thing. I don't know if that's how it is, but I guess you could still be that way while also allowing them. You have to just kind of like break free and say like, you know what, I understand what's good for me and my family may not be what's best for you, and you should have a voice in that. So I would encourage you to allow them to unionize, or just give them the ability to vote on things. Allow them to have some democracy in the workplace. And that's something I've believed in since I was young. It's been very difficult for me to work because I was confused for a long time going through the capitalist system and being like, this is just so, it's just wrong. It feels wrong. Like something about it just does not feel right. I think I don't know, you have to like just put yourself to the grind and not think about it too much. But if you stop and think about it, you're like, this is just weird, because I think you'll be all right. But I hope that you're able to, sort of remove all of those feelings. And I know you got a lot. I know you got a big heart. Like, I can see it. But I hope you're able to remove those feelings. And, right here in this video where you become somewhat petulant, in this one that we were just watching, and you're like, you know what, I'm just not going to agree with you. That's fine. You don't have to agree. This is just the way it is. Once you get to a certain income bracket, once you become the boss, once you're the owner, it doesn't matter if you agree or not, because you're right in what you believe because it's good for you, but it's not always good for them. Does that make sense? It's a paradox. And they need to be able to say what is good for them without fear of recourse, without fear of losing their job, and they need to have action taken for it. And that's what a union can guarantee. It really removes a lot of the emotional nonsense, or like the come talk to mom, come talk to dad type nonsense. You're a big company now. You can't be doing that stuff. You got to just like remove all feelings and be like, this is what the employees get. This is what the boss gets. You're making more money than them, and they're doing a lot of the work that's making you that money. So give them this. Anyway, I could probably go on and on and on about all this nonsense, because I'm a huge supporter of unions, or anything that gives us democracy. And I think, remember, democracy and freedom are two different things. And the people who are always screaming freedom almost never want democracy. They don't want power for everybody. They want freedom to exploit those people. Those are the types. And the libertarians and everything are always like, what about my freedom to exploit everybody? Like, that's usually what they're saying. Okay, and then there's another thing we need to talk about. I'm not sure if you still do this, but not letting your employees talk about their wages. This is just a little bit too anti-employee. Yes, it's good for you if they don't talk about their wages, and it's good for making sure they stay at the company. And a lot of times you're going to think, well, whatever's good for the company is going to be good for them, because the company will grow and they'll make more money and they'll grow with us. But that's control. Let them talk about how much they make. Let them talk about their job. Give them a place to vent. Let them vote. Give them paid days off. Like, come on. if you're making this much money, and I know every single penny counts when you're like growing and growing, and you get into this mindset where like, you know, you got to have total control. You don't. You got to leave alone some of the stuff and just realize your life is good. Your life's pretty good. You got your kids, you got your family, you got your house, you got your business, you got your whatever, your money you're making. There's pressures and stuff, but a lot of that is self-imposed nonsense. A lot of that is like, you know, you're just thinking that you have all this stuff to do and all these commitments, and when really you can just kind of push pause like you did. You don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is take care of your, you know, those you love, which I mean like your immediate family and stuff. That's really all you have to do. And a lot of people, and one more thing I'll say to you, because I've been through all the shit, the hate and everything, you're going to get a lot of the haters and stuff. Listen, people out there, they have to like have a reality. They have to know what's going on. And if they don't know all the stuff that happens behind the scenes, and they can't fill in on all the details, people can't let it go. They can't just, it's a weird thing that people do. So they're like, well, we don't know the story. We've heard some bits and pieces from here, and then there was some nonsense. And then they start making up stuff, and then that becomes the reality because they have to have something. So they just make up some nonsense. And usually if it's awful, it makes them feel good. So people have to live in this super toxic reality. And a lot of times the people who really get into that have some reason. There's something super toxic in their life that makes them want to be toxic everywhere. Doesn't mean it's fun or it's good. But a lot of times I look at it and I'm like, wow, how shitty must your life be if this is what you choose to do with it? You know, like you're just like making up and living in this alternate reality and yelling at people who make comments or say anything. You're just like going crazy. So I think you'll get through it. Give power to your employees. And this is my nice video. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. That's just a threat. Anyway, thanks for the sponsors in this video. I'm putting sponsorship in this video because I'm not under fire for anything. So enjoy.